Welcome to the Mindset with Maco podcast. I'm your host, Adrian Maco. Join me each week as we delve into the transformative power of mindset and learn from successful business owners, influencers, and inspirational people who have changed their lives through the power of their mindset. All right, welcome to the Mindset with Maco podcast. Today we have an awesome guest. I'm really excited to have him here, Mr. Dan Swiss, the founder and owner of Paxi. Welcome to the podcast.
Good to be here, man.
Thank you, brother. Really appreciate being here, and thank you for your flexibility and I know our schedules have been all over the place,
Wow.
and there was a
make it happen.
little miscommunication, but we're here, and it's meant to be. So, why don't you start a little bit about telling us about what Paxi is, just in a simple term?
Yeah, we make really simple smart home devices. So our primary device we make right now is called the LightCam. And it is an outdoor security camera replacement. So essentially you can turn any lantern into a professional outdoor security camera in 35 seconds.
Wow.
So you screw in the, smart light combination, security camera. It's got two-way voice, so you can basically talk and hear just fine. It's not like walkie-talkie. It's more like FaceTime.
Oh, nice.
It's got full all hue control, so you can do any white color you want. It's got all color control, so you could do holidays.
So instead of having your floodlight plus a camera, it's just two in one.
Yeah, you just screw it in. You use the Paxi Smart app, and then you just follow the prompts in the app, and 30 seconds later, you've got a amazing panoramic night vision enabled camera at your house.
Wow, I love that. So what would you call it? More of like a home security?
Yeah, it's
company or home security.
Yeah, absolutely. It's smart home and
smart.
Security. Smart security, I guess, is probably the best way to put it.
Is this? I know it's fairly new, right? I mean,
yeah. So we've been working on it for a while because it's some awesome technology.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a lot of patents and some issued utilities and all that stuff. But yeah, we're just more or less hitting the market with with our initial manufacturing and everything going out.
Nice. Okay. And I mean, obviously it's taken a while for you to get to this point, right?
Oh, yeah.
Actually launching. It's not something you're just like, hey, let's combine a light bulb and a camera, right?
Yeah. Well, they have this interesting concept that they always say hardware is hard because there's a lot of really cool software companies and software applications and things that are out there. But there's a lot of things that you have to think about when you're doing all of not just how does the device, interact on my phone, but also what is the device? Like, What are you going to use? What are the components? How high quality are you going to build it?
Right.
And so it's given us some exceptional ability to really deliver. So one thing that's really interesting is I invented the product initially because I just needed a camera in my house. Like where I live, there's some HOA rules that I couldn't actually attach an outdoor camera to my house. So I was like, well, maybe I'll get one of those cool lanterns with the thing. And then it was like, that wasn't allowed either. And so I realized I'm like, there's just, there's 39% of Americans that are not allowed to really do anything because they rent. They're not allowed to attach. They can't drill a camera, a battery camera. It doesn't matter what it is. They can't detach an outside camera.
That's a good point. Aside from an HOA regulation, a lot of people that are renters,
100 million Americans,
nor do they want to, put a fixture on the house that isn't even theirs, right?
Oh yeah. You put it on there permanently, and it's like, cool. Hey, I just
my lease is up in 6 months. So what's the point? Yeah.
Yeah. So you're in this difficult spot where you're like, hey, so I'm renting here. I'd like to look after my family.
Right.
And the landlord's like, no. And you're like, well, come on, man. These are my kids. And it's like, I know, but it's my house. So no.
And sometimes that includes a doorbell camera as well.
Anything. Yeah. Whatever's
just
attached.
So common nowadays, right? Yeah.
So we looked at it and said, okay, well, on the sides of the garage, on the side door, on the back door, a lot of times the front door, there's a can light, there's a lantern. Could we develop something that works kind of everywhere? And one of the biggest challenges we ran into is, with just some of the light bulb cameras that existed was they didn't give a really good panoramic view. It was like, hey, the lens needs to be right next to the glass. Like, is it possible to build a light bulb combination smart light camera where the lens can go and move? And then second, if we move it, can we seal it to the glass so then there's no glare? So, you can see at night and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And dude, we did tons of research and nothing like that existed. So we're like, all right, well, let's build one. Let's see if it can be done. And then we started the patent process, and it became really clear super early that there's just a lot of people that they don't have an option for anything.
Right.
They live in a condo and it's awesome, but it's like, I come home at 6 from work. My kids get home from school at 2:30.
Right.
I'd really love to see who's around my place in that gap.
Right.
Not just inside, not just, I can put an indoor camera in or whatever.
Right.
And so we were hoping to find something that would really serve those people well and be, like you said, it just goes with you. It's like, oh, that's cool.
I love that.
I'll just unscrew it, take it to my new place.
That's what so you gave that consumer an option now to screw as easy as screwing a light bulb in, and then as easy as unscrewing it and taking it to your next place if you're a renter.
Yeah. And each one is uniquely identified. So it's a little bit like your iPhone or Android, where it's like kind of like Find My Phone thing. So, I mean, you can't steal it or anything. It could be a cool paperweight. What we've noticed with all the people using it so far, it just hides in plain sight. Like, people don't notice it until you start talking to them.
Interesting.
Or we can program it in ways where it can whistle at you, it can talk at you. Inside is really, really cool. So inside we host everything. So instead of putting a lot of the stuff up in the cloud where it can get hacked and all that other crap, we run all of the, processing and everything in the camera. So it's lightning fast.
In the actual device.
Yeah. On the device. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So for example, we've got some, models that you can load onto. So machine learning models for object identification. So instead of doing just, the tree moved in the wind and now you're getting, false notifications.
Right.
Yeah. You're like, all right, well, cool. I got a dog. If a kid jumps in my backyard, I want to know, but my dog's running around. I don't need to know that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. It just dogs off, kids on, you're good.
I love that. That's special there. Because that little, that issue you just described, I get it all the time with my home security.
There it is.
It's like, I don't care. Like,
it's annoying.
It is annoying.
We want you to know what's going on. And if it's something you want to know about, then great. And you can pull it up instantly and communicate. So second thing I thought was really unique is our team was able to do some really cool things with how much data the camera actually needs.
Yeah.
And they were able to compress it down so low. So it's like, it doesn't need hardly any Wi-Fi. So it can run HD, really clear, beautiful picture, fast, because it doesn't need a whole lot of Wi-Fi because it's being, all that's being handled and compressed and encrypted inside the camera before it leaves. So that way, when you detect motion, you can pull it up when the motion's still there. Like, oh, dude, there's a kid.
Not the 20 seconds of lag to open the app and let it load.
Yeah, and then by the time you get it loaded, it's like, okay, the FedEx guy is gone. The kid's already in the pool. By that
time, the guy who knocked on your door has walked away, right?
Yeah, and you got to rewind back if you have the storage.
Dude, seriously, I get that. So you obviously, it sounds like it came from a problem that you had. You were out there searching for something like that.
Yeah.
But let me ask you this, because I think we find that a lot in our lives. It's like you're looking for something, whether it's a device or a service, and you're like, oh, it doesn't exist. But most of the time we're like, okay, well, it doesn't exist. Whatever. I'll take the next best thing. What made you this time be like, I want to actually invent this thing? Because I'm sure that you didn't do that with everything that was missing, right?
No.
Why this?
Dude, it's wild. And so one of my favorite parts about working so hard and so long at building and delivering something is being able to give people encouragement who are doing or considering doing the same thing. Because dude, you go on Amazon, you go on, Walmart, you go anywhere you go where there are packages, products, and services.
Yeah.
Somebody gave their life, blood, sweat, and tears. Or even a huge group of people combined together to deliver that cool thing. I mean, it's very first world problems where you're like, oh, I went on Amazon and it wasn't there.
Right.
And it's like you said, you're like, well, most of us are just like, well, it wasn't perfectly there ready for me on a nice platter. So I guess I'll just move on.
Yeah.
Because how do these magical things come into existence?
Right. Well, it starts with an idea, and then it takes, like you said, the blood, sweat, and tears and courage to actually bring that idea to life. It's magic, if you ask me.
Yeah,
right?
I think there's a lot of very, very special, and I think people who are willing to do it deserve, some credit and all that. But for me, in this case, it was, I wouldn't say it was anything special that I did. It was that, so just to give you background, I had a tree at the time at this house that I lived in that was over the alleyway where I wanted this camera. And I was traveling a lot and working and whatnot. And I came home and like somebody or something had like annihilated part of the tree, like just tore it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what?
Part of the tree?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wild. And, being me, I'm like, all right, well, it's not dead. And like, so I pushed the, huge limb back up and, did all the crap, wrapped it back up and it didn't die. Like the tree survived. So now I got like blood, sweat, and tears invested in this tree. Like this is a big, beautiful tree. It shades this whole section of my yard I had like a garage out in the alleyway. Yeah. And I was gone, it was like 4 months later. I came back. That tree limb that I'd saved just ripped off and it was like in the alley and I was so pissed.
Wow.
So I'd like to say it was like a heartwarming, inspirational story, but it was mostly just like I just needed to know. I'm like, who is doing this to me? Like who is abusing my yard?
Yeah, who's messing with my stuff?
Yeah. It was a garbage truck. Caught him.
Unintentionally?
Unintentionally.
Okay.
But it was just this huge garbage truck that would like roll down and it was kind of on this curve and they would take it way too close. And if close enough, it'd just basically drive right through part of my yard and hit that tree.
So what'd you do next? Call Waste Management?
Yeah. What are you going to do? By then it was like, but the tree is already well gone. Sure. So by then it didn't matter. But the thing that I saw with that is, one, I had actually done a couple of projects earlier on in life, like things I thought were really just awesome ideas. I'm like, dude, this needs to exist. This is a huge idea. And it's weird because I really believe that the inspiration doesn't come to individuals uniquely. I think it comes to a lot of people. It's just whether or not you want to execute on that bit of inspiration you're getting. Because you get that. Like, you're like, oh man, I got this idea. And then like 8 months later, you like see it on the shelf and you're like,
damn it.
That was, and it's crushing it.
Right. Dude, I love that you said that. I've been there a few times and actually recently. So for someone who has an idea and wants to bring it to life like you have, what's the first step?
Yeah.
What's that you should take?
Yeah. So here's the weird thing. What I would recommend is a couple of things. So first of all, make a list. Just all the things you think are, just because I find that a lot of people that come up with a great idea, they have 6 or 7 or 20 great ideas, right? Put them all down.
Okay.
And then decide which ones, or probably all of them, that you're purposely not going to do. Like, I know it sounds backwards.
Yeah.
Right? Because the effort and the endurance, the everything, the resources, the just fortitude, it's going to take you to deliver on your business, on your invention, on your product, on your adventure, on your trip, on your whatever it is, right? It's going to be more than you think.
Right.
It's going to take longer than you think. It's going to be all these things, right? So if you're swimming to the surface, right, you need to preserve all the oxygen you can, because if you don't make it to the surface, it feels like it's all for naught. Like there are a lot of people like, oh man, I want to do this business and I tried, and then I didn't have, and that's the next thing. I didn't have the resources. That's what you always hear is, I didn't have the resources to get across the finish line. So first step is look at everything you think you want to do and try to say no to everything except for that one thing that you just can't let go. Right. The thing that's like, man, I just have to do this. Like this means a lot to other people. This means, right?
Right.
The next part is, yes, you're going to conserve all these resources, all this other stuff, and you're going to make your plan and your map on how to do it.
Right.
Then go talk to 2 different people. One, talk to somebody that's in that space. Whoever it is, find someone with, exceptional, information, because dude, everything that needs to be learned is 99% already understood by somebody else.
Right.
You can skip that by meeting with them, right?
So let me ask you a question on that. How do you carefully share your idea without, or with a potential fear of someone else stealing your idea?
Oh man.
Right.
That's a really, really,
first thing that pops in my head is an NDA, but I don't know if that's like,
no. Well, there's a couple of things, right? And it's weird, but if your idea is actually that good, right? Either you are going to fail to execute on it, right? Like it's that good, but I'm just not going to ever do it.
Right.
So I'll never share it with anyone. I'll keep it a secret.
Right.
Right. Or everyone could execute on it easily. Right. So what usually goes with a really good idea, there's a reason it doesn't exist. And it's not because someone hasn't thought of it.
Right.
It's almost always because the execution is really hard.
Right.
Right. So if you're like, man, I can't tell anyone about this great idea, dude, genius hidden in a basement is going to remain hidden.
Right.
Right. So that's why I say, like, one, go talk to somebody. If you talk to someone who's exceptionally talented in your space, whatever, yeah, be careful, make sure that you're talking to someone that you've got a relationship or a friend of a friend or something. Or two, don't talk to that person. Talk to someone that's been successful at something, some big endeavor. Right.
Like
might not be in your field. Sure. Dude, I talk to an overwhelming number of people and I love it. I'm always available. I will, I'll give anybody 10, 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is, to go over it. Right. And sometimes people are like, oh, hey, so I'm anxious. I don't, should we do an NDA? I don't want to get my idea stolen. And I was like, anybody who's doing great things, there's a high probability that they're already busy on something they think is amazing.
Right.
And they love your idea and they might even want to invest in it. They might want to be an advisor to you.
But they don't have time to bring it to life.
Yeah, they're tired.
Yeah.
They're busy. They're like, you know what I mean? It's like you go, like, here's a good example. Elon Musk, right? He does all these things. He's always doing these crazy things, right?
Right.
So he's like, hey, I built a X.com, PayPal.com. I built a bunch of stuff from scratch, right? The guy's got billions of dollars.
Right.
Why would he go buy a Twitter? Why don't you just make a Twitter? Right?
Right.
It's just, he knows how hard it is to launch an idea. It's just easier to buy something that's on their level. So if you're talking to someone who's really successful at launching something big, it's very likely that they want to cheer you on. But if they want to be in your space, they're going to buy something that already exists that you can see already.
Right. Instead of starting it from scratch.
Yeah. So you can have a little bit more courage and all that stuff. Because if it's that easy for them to copy it, it should be that easy for you to just go do it.
Wow. That's a really good point.
So like if it's like, well, if somebody knew, they would just do it. Then don't tell anybody, go do it.
Exactly. Because at that point, you don't need that much help.
Right. The second part is that's the question, right? Most people, they start 50 projects. So first, don't start 50, start one.
Right.
Right. Second, they don't have a map of what it's going to take. So they're kind of like, well, maybe I need this. I don't know. And they want some advice and whatever. Like they're busy looking for resources instead of resourcefulness. Right. Because, like what's that great quote, right? Ask for money, get advice. Ask for advice, get paid twice. Right.
Right.
So when you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I've got this idea and you're mapping out in your mind, what do I need to go and execute on this thing? Right. Chances are, like, again, you're going to need to run through a few things with some people you trust.
Right.
You're going to need to write it down and map out, hey, how am I going to go and approach this? You're going to look at it and say, okay, there are actually some resources that we might actually need to pull this off.
Right.
Right. That's when, like, really, that's when you try and figure out what's the minimum. Like, what is the thing that's going to get proof that this is legit? Right. It's okay. Because if you're like, dude, I want to, it's like, imagine the Wright brothers. If they were trying to build a 747,
right,
they would never gone anywhere.
No.
They're like, all right, well, we want to fly.
Right.
It wasn't, we want to build a plane. Right. It wasn't, we want to build a bi-wing. It wasn't like they didn't have an idea of the thing they wanted to do. They had an idea of what it was going to accomplish.
Right. Flight.
So, there it is.
Right.
So that's like when you're going through your list of like, these are cool ideas I had. Right. This is the one that I gotta do. I figured out my resources, what it's going to take. I figured out my resourcefulness, who I'm going to talk to about it. And then the last piece is, okay, if you were able to get to fruition, if this was successful, like what then? What's the impact? Because if you know that, then the means can vary a bit.
Right.
Right. For us, what I wanted was to be able to deliver something that individuals could look after their family and home in a situation where the current products didn't work.
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind. Communication. Right. Life is made up of your time. So if you can spend less of it worrying, more of it connecting, like, oh, dude, when my daughter comes home, I see her come home. I talk to her on the camera. Hey, how are you doing?
Everything's good.
Right. All of those things make life better for other people. And that's the other part is when you're looking at it, if you're looking at your idea and saying, okay, which one of these is going to make money? How am I going to make the most money? You're probably going to fail, and you probably should work for somebody else who already has a money machine. It sounds wild because a lot of people, they get into it because they want to start a side hustle,
or it's really money motivated, not impact or change motivated.
Yeah,
I think those are the best ideas, and those are the big disruptors in the world, right? Things that change our culture or start a new make a difference basically in people's lives, whatever that may be, whether that's a camera or an electric car or something that just makes your life easier.
Yeah. 100%,
and the money's a byproduct. It's like, of course the money's coming out because now you've solved such a big problem, or you've provided so much value to the consumer that of course you're going to make a ton of money.
Yeah, as Walt Disney always said, we make money so we can make movies for people. We don't make money, or we don't make movies so we can make money.
Right.
There's such a, obviously somewhat successful movie making guy.
Just a little.
But it's just weird because I've the last little bit, especially I've had a chance to connect with and meet with and, review a lot of, life foundational stuff with people who are very economically successful. And it's an interesting, observation of the ones that are really, really satisfied and the ones that are a little bit bitter. And I find the big difference is that the bitter ones for most of their life were told that if they just had more, they would be happier. It's a little bit like someone that's always hungry and they have that first piece of pizza. It's so good.
Right. And
then they're never allowed to eat a second. So all they know is, man, if I had 10 pieces of pizza, that'd be 10 times the happiness. I'd be ecstatic. And, consumption has a negative utility. Totally. So the more you consume, it gets to a point where it's actually not enjoyable. In fact, it's actually quite unenjoyable. It's terrible, right? It's like that guy that's like the Shaquille O'Neal, where it's like, dude, I live in a 50,000 square foot house. I use 3 bedrooms.
Right.
Like having the house is this like, it's actually like a burden.
Sure.
As wild as that is, you think everybody wants that. Everyone wants more. And so the other group of people, it's all about, okay, so what impact does my stuff have? And the wild part is that not only do they tend to be just, more successful on average, but they tend to become more successful. And if we're talking just financial, right?
Right.
Because like once they've hit the big thing, or they've made the this or made the that, they don't lose motivation.
Right. It's not like they arrive and they're like, all right, I'm good. I'm out. Right.
I did what I needed. I rung the bell.
I think a good example of that is Mr. Beast. Do you know much about Mr. Beast?
I'd love to know more. One of my favorite stories is his launch story, where he had his first video go viral, and then he got his check from I mean, you've probably heard this story, but he got his first check and he's like, dude, this is so great. Like, I'm going to go give it away.
Yeah.
And his family and parents were like,
he never lost that. He still gives it almost all away. A lot of his videos are based on philanthropy and giving free money or free things to the communities that he wants to impact. Right. And just like you said, though, like he started making the money and he wasn't consuming. He lives in an average size home. He drives an average car. He's not like buying all this fancy stuff. If you saw him and didn't know who he was at the store, you'd think he's like some like broke college kid, but he is the biggest YouTuber in the world. But he spends, I don't even know the exact number, but I know he spends at least $1 million per video because he throws it all back in, whether that's production, whether that's giving some of the money away. And he's just so hyper focused on giving it all back and creating that experience in his videos for his viewers that the money just follows him at this point because he's so hyper focused on just delivering a good quality video and affecting people's lives through his videos that it's just, that's his passion. That's his drive. I don't think he started the YouTube channel or is continuing to do the YouTube channel because he's like, I want to make more money. He's all right,
yeah, he's doing okay.
Yeah.
But to your original point, when you said if someone has an idea, if someone has a concept and they want or they need advice, they need support, they need something, The base of it all, I would say, is like just you're temporarily immortal, right?
Mm-hmm.
You wake up every morning, you got a whole nother shot at being successful. And, the law of big numbers and math tells us if you were to attempt something an infinite number of times, whether that's picking the code to some safe or whatever it is, if you had an infinite number of tries, it is only a matter of like
you will get
fate.
Yeah.
That it one day, even if it's just sheer dumb luck from not quitting, that safe is going to crack open, and whatever it is that you were trying to accomplish,
you're going to get it.
You're going to get it.
Every squirrel gets its nut.
That's right.
Eventually.
So in your mind, you literally can say the number of no's, the number of failures, the number of attempts required between me and success are fewer today than they were yesterday. And I'm temporarily immortal because every morning I'm still here.
I love that. Temporarily immortal.
Yeah, dude. And if you wake up and you're not here, it doesn't matter anyways.
Wow. How did that mindset help you and affect you while you were building Paxi?
Oh, man. So we've run into some really difficult times. As you might imagine, lots of people have gone through tricky stuff with, building an electronic, a brand new, amazing innovation during pandemic lockdowns and all the, supply chain issues, the chip cost issues. Like I'm not a Tesla, I'm not a Ford, I'm not a Toyota. You know what I mean? I don't, I'm not Lenovo. I'm not some monster manufacturer. So our costs, our logistics, everything has been tough. Right. And the thing that really helped me a lot is I read the book Shoe Dog. Have you ever read that?
I've heard of it.
It's the story of Nike. It's
cool.
And if you read it, it's a little bit like, probably not as rough as like the David Goggins Can't Hurt Me book, but like you get a few chapters in and you're like, am I reading the right book? Is this the multi-billion-dollar, like trillion-dollar global brand? Because this just sounds like a guy just getting beat up.
Really?
It's like, this opportunity, it's going to go good. No, it doesn't. Oh, this partner's going to be great. No, he's not. They finally land the big contract. And then like the moment you go to celebrate, it's like
just gut punch after gut punch after gut punch.
Yeah. So something, I think it was Jake. I'm pretty sure it was Jake Waldrum. He told me, he's like, well, dude, you're like in like chapter 7, bro. Right. And I was like, that's such a great insight.
Yeah.
Right. Because think about it. Every good book has some really gnarly chapters.
Right.
And like, if you come from comfort and ease and all that stuff, man, it's hard for you to appreciate the progress because you're like, well, I kind of started here and then here. Right. But when you go through what it takes to deliver something really special to the world, whether it's writing your book or doing a podcast or whatever it is, right? Like if it's of high value, it's going to be hard. Like that's just the nature of the path. So if you tell yourself, first of all, I have unlimited attempts, which means theoretically and for the most part, practically, dude, you will get there.
Right.
So success or failure isn't even a question. You're going to succeed.
I love seeing it that way too. You have an unlimited amount of attempts.
Unlimited.
It's almost the first thing that popped into my head is like, like the NBA halftime shows when it's like, all right, who wants to do a half court shot? You've only got like 2 tries though, right?
Dude, if I gave you an unlimited amount of attempts to huck a half court shot and I said, I'll give you $1 million if you make this. By the way, you can shoot as many as you want. When would you quit shooting?
Never. The
moment
or I guess the moment I make it, of course.
Exactly.
But I would never give up.
Exactly.
But I'd be like,
why would you give up?
I'm going to be here all night because he's got $1 million for me.
Yeah, you'd be here all night. You'd be here all day. You'd be here, right? And that's why I say, dude, you look at your goals, you look at the things, the cool ideas, the products you want to do, and you look at it and say, dude, no. Yes. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can only be in one room at a time. You can only be shooting that one basket at a time, right?
Right.
So if that's the one that's like, this is my $1 million thing. This is my make the impact on the world. This is my change everything for my family, for everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to keep saying no to everything else. The other things, if it's not contributing towards that thing you're launching in some fashion, right? I get it. Sometimes you got to, work nights.
Sure.
Sometimes you got to keep your day job.
Yep.
Right? It doesn't mean you're giving up on your goal. It means you're facilitating getting your goal.
Of course.
But if you're like, oh man, I'm starting a shoe company, but then I'm also doing this other thing and I'm also doing this other thing, the first thing you should say is, okay, which of these things is the thing that's really going to make the impact? Not the money, the impact.
Impact.
And are the other things I'm doing directly contributing to me accomplishing that impact? And if you can't say yes, then you say no. If someone comes to you and says, dude, I got a great idea. I want you and me, let's start a company together. It's amazing. Hey man, I'd love to. Right now I'm fully committed over here.
Right.
But I'll answer your call. I'll give you a half hour. I'll give you guidance. I'll help you. As soon as we crush it, I might even come on, I'll be an investor with you, but that's not my calling. That's yours.
Right. Right. Because I know this is probably inevitable in any endeavor that you pursue, is there comes to a point where you're like, is this worth it? Should I just throw in the towel?
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever get to that point? And if you did, what helped you get out of that?
So I've had a few things where I wanted to do certain endeavors, and I realized it was, for me at that time, it was like a position where I'm like, I don't think I have sufficient foundation to go after this thing, right? Like it's tough, right? Like for example, a lot of people, you finish school or whatever, and you're like, hey, I want to go find my calling, and it's like, great, but it's okay to find something that helps you, eat,
mm-hmm.
right? Helps you do those things, right? And so one of the things I found is that if you're not ready to go all in, where you will go till fruition, till you'll get it on the other side of the gap, it's okay to wait, right? It's okay if you're like, hey, I feel called to do this thing. Cool. Again, say no to everything, figure out what resources you're going to need, go figure out how to be resourceful to get those resources. So what that had done for me prior to coming up with this was it had put me in a position where I'd said no to a lot of things for a long time prior to this.
Right.
So when it came time to, hey, I'm okay, well, I'm going to see, I'll go build this thing, right? That helped a ton because I had all that pent up, stored up, ambition, energy, capital, resources to go after the next project, right? So sometimes it's okay when you're like, hey, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to recoup. I'm going to stock up before I go hit my next thing.
Right.
And then during that process, dude, there's plenty of times where things get real rough. And this is wild. I had somebody who I was meeting with, and we're going through, hey, scenario this, scenario that, all the different launch channels.
Yeah.
And this is recently.
Okay.
Which is kind of wild, right? Because like the most dangerous times for anything are at the beginning.
Yeah.
As you get farther in, yes, maybe the amount you've invested gets bigger, your sunk costs get bigger, like your theoretical loss might get bigger.
Right.
But that's already lost. Like it's already spent, it's already invested. So technically, as the thing gets bigger and better and farther along, your chance of success goes up because you've already invested all this other stuff, right? You've already taken the 50 steps. Like your chance of summiting Everest gets better every day in. Yes, if you don't succeed, you'll feel really crappy that you hiked 4/5 of it instead of quitting day one. But it doesn't matter. Like in the end, it's like, okay, well, as you get closer and closer, what you start to realize is hiking Everest is only a day away. It used to be 50. It used to be a year preparation. Now it's only 500 yards.
Right.
So if you hike 500 yards, the reward for that is I summited Everest.
Right.
Right? Now, most people think of it as, oh, no, to summit Everest is a year prep. All that stuff's been invested already.
Right.
You're done with that. You don't have to redo it. It's all done. The only thing left is a little bit of effort. So when you launch into your thing and you're ready to do it, you got to know, one, you have unlimited tries, but two, it's going to actually get easier, even though it might feel like it's not. You might be like, oh man, I've knocked on 100 doors and nobody said yes yet. Okay, well, on average, how many yeses do you get per 100 doors? And maybe the industry standard is 1.
Right.
Well, if you've knocked on 100 doors, how statistically likely, what's the probability that the next one's a yes? It's not 0.
It's pretty dang high.
It's pretty dang high.
Yeah.
So that's what I tell people. Like when you start to get discouraged, it's like, dude, the probability of you being successful is higher now than it's ever been, even though it might seem pretty dark, even though you might be out of resources, even though, you might get legal stuff coming against you. Your best friend's cheating you and trying to start a competing version of what you're doing, right?
So is that what you told yourself in those moments? Is I'm right around the corner of summiting Everest. I'm right around the corner from really hitting this thing off.
Yeah, well, and in this case, like, I didn't even do the math. That's what I said when the guy said, "Hey, so what's it look like for you to just crush it this way, that way, the other way? What's it look like? What's your plan if you want to unravel things? Like, what's your plan if the business goes poorly?" And I looked at him, and I was legitimately confused. One, why would you ever ask the question?
Right.
And two, I don't have an answer.
You don't have a plan B?
I'm all in.
No plan B?
No plan B. Come in. Plan B, please. If you're going to go and do something and be exceptional at it, like, it's not just burning the boats. Like, oh, let's burn the boats and we'll take the island. People think the burning of the boats somehow translates into the other army ready to murder you disappearing.
Right.
That's not the war. That's the beginning, right? The burning of the boats, fighting the bloody war, surviving it, and then rebuilding from nothing on the other side, right?
Right.
So yes, it's difficult. Yes. But like, that's why I say don't start until you know you can't not, right? It's like, you know what I mean? Like, for example, a lot of times people, when they're dating, they're like, oh, I like this girl, I like that guy, I like this, right?
Right.
You don't just pick one off the shelf and say, well, that one looks good, I'll try that for a while, right? If you want to have the impact, the satisfaction, the long-term, like, this is epic, right?
Right.
Most of those people, they don't pick something until they just have to. They're compelled. They're like, dude, this one is like nothing I've ever seen. This person is like something like, and the hard times come and the struggles come, and it's like, well, so when do you plan on leaving your relationship? And it's like, that's not a plan. Like, what do you mean leaving the relationship? Well, when it gets hard and tough, and then it's like, you just make it work.
Right. There's
right?
no plan B.
Yeah. Well, it'd be like asking Kobe Bryant, like, hey, Kobe Bryant, like, so when practice is tough, like, when do you plan to, like, if it's like a really tough practice, when do you plan to like not shoot? And it's like, dude, the plan to succeed was laid forever ago. The decision was made.
Right.
Like, you don't remake the decision every week. That's exhausting. Can you imagine if every morning the CEO of this or the CEO of that wakes up and says, well, if things go poorly, I might have to quit today. Dude, you make the decision at the beginning that you're going to go through and do whatever it takes to come out the other end. And then you can decide if you're done.
Right.
Once you've succeeded, then you decide. Because, dude, if it's not going to be, the failure will get thrust upon you, period.
Right.
So it's not really your choice. So I know that's maybe not answering the question directly.
No, I love it. I like it.
But your approach, I just think your approach is the same way of like, hey man, let's teach our kid to walk.
Right.
So when do we give up? When do we tell the kid, hey man,
I don't think
walking is not for you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, there's no option. I love that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the mindset you need to really succeed in anything, whether that's being good at basketball, whether that's starting a company, being good at real estate, whatever it may be.
Yeah. The most important words that you hear are the ones that come out of your mouth, right? You are hypnotizing yourself with what you say. Your words matter.
Right.
So like you were pointing out, like, hey, so how's the mindset affect everything, right? If you sit there and you commit it, you say it, you speak it into existence, right? There's a high probability that thing will just end up happening.
Will work out.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, thanks, man. I want to wrap up a little. Just first off, I thank you for being here. Seriously, I think this is an episode that a lot of people are going to be able to really learn from, because I think there's a lot of people who have been put in that position where they have an idea, whether it's a business idea or an invention, but they just don't really know how to take it to that next step, myself included. And I think this gives the listeners a really good insight on what they should be thinking about, what they can expect, and kind of how to process that idea and get to where hopefully, where you are today.
Yeah.
Because not everyone, I don't know the percentage, but I would say a very low percentage of people get from idea to it's in my hands now.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. And I want to say that I'm proud of you, and I'm super stoked for you and your launch with Paxi. And it's an inspiration. You inspire a lot of people. So thank you.
Oh man, it means a lot. My main goal with this long term, other than, the impact we're going to have on people using it, it's a security product. So at some point it will make the difference between someone's kid's life being, ruined or different forever to, I don't know. There's just some weird guy at our apartment. I talked to him on the camera and he walked away.
Right.
Right. But on top of that, if we can be successful at delivering that, there are ripples upon ripples of other people that we can help bring their products, stuff that I need that I don't even know I need.
Right.
And I love it because, honestly, if people want to DM me on Instagram or whatever, I'm 100% respond to everybody.
Where can people find you on Instagram? What's your handle?
Dan_Swiss.
Dan_Swiss.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. I think I'm like one of 3 Dan Swisses in the world, and the other 2 are like my second cousins, and they're super dope. So
Wait, really?
Yeah. Well, thank you to social media that I've connected with.
You found them like that?
The few people that share our wonderful namesake.
I love that. What is that? Is that some?
It's it's great. So my heritage originally is from Lviv, like in Ukraine.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's wild. Like one of my cousins, my little brother, flew over there. And they found our whole family records, all that stuff, going back in the Orthodox churches and stuff for generations.
Interesting.
And then there's some other stuff. It's a mix.
Yeah, we're all just a big mix here. So,
but yeah, if we can, and that's what I was saying. So if we can be the means to help other people bring their things to fruition. So, whether that's guidance on the legal, the practical, the financial, the raising capital, the IP stuff that you've got to deal with, the marketing stuff. And there's a lot that, dude, I still don't know. And it's wild because we'll have these meetings where I'll meet with somebody, who's like, hey, I'm just starting, just finished high school or just whatever, I don't know anything. And dude, I'll take away some nugget of brilliance
from them.
And I'll be like, dude, man, that was a really rewarding 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I don't think they realize how much genius is just naturally embedded in people.
Right.
And, just, give them the courage to go and do it.
I love that.
And then if we can help in some way, I'm all on board.
And that's how you change the world.
That's right. Yeah. It's funny. A lot of people don't realize it. Even your podcast, a lot of the concepts that you push out, those get shared to somebody else. And you may not see it because you may not see the viewer. You may not interact with them directly.
Right.
But there are multiple ripples that are going around the world right now from the ideas you put into the universe.
I love that. Well, Dan, thank you for being here today, brother. Again, I appreciate everything you've done, the path that you're paving for everyone, and for the impact that you're already making and you're going to continue to be making. So,
dude,
thank you,
awesome.
brother. Thanks for listening to the Mindset with Maco podcast, sponsored by Maco Real Estate LLC. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review. And if you know someone with an amazing story to share, DM me on Instagram at AdrianMaco_Utah Realtor. Until next time, remember, if you want to change your life, you must first change your mindset.